Hey, you guys. Welcome to another edition of Kitchen Confessionals. This one's a bit aggressive, so if you're feeling if you're in a really good mood, well, I shouldn't even say that because I may start these a little gripey, but I usually end them with some lessons. So I'll leave it up to you to decide your own feelings. You read the room, read the energy. So I am having a day, and I kind of felt like I needed to vent a little bit. So I'm going to do this. First of all, I think Spirit wants me to go on TikTok or something like that because I feel like they want me to do singing duets. And as far as I know, you can't do that on YouTube. All the people who bring YouTube videos on are TikTok, and they're like sharing with each other, which is cool. But then also I'm like, wait, I'm like looking for that feature on YouTube thinking that I could do that too. And they're like, oh no, they made that on TikTok. I'm like, I'm so confused. This 51-year-old not growing up in that technology gets confused. But I digress. So I'm heating water right now. I'm making dinner, which I was really hopeful was going to be not cooked by me today. But it didn't go down that way, and so I'm airing some grievances, getting real about some shit. Ooh, look at that. So Alder and I, this has been like seriously one of the toughest months I can remember that we've had. Like, I feel like we've been in this love bubble honestly, I thought for sure when we became home free that was going to break us. I did. I had no faith in our love. I had no faith in us after all the years of struggling and his sex addictions and cheating and all that bullshit and just so much shit. And me almost dying, him almost dying, like just almost 8 years of like just a lot of stuff between two human beings. But two powerful human beings that were raised by narcissists and empaths and triggers and just fucking crazy shit. Our parents were addicts and just a lot of shit. A lot of rape survivor stuff. Just a lot of just a lot of stuff. I mean, there's just so much stuff. And I really thought that we were in a different place. I really thought we were, but then I started to see certain patterns emerging. I noticed them in November and December. We were fighting then too, and it was bad, but we took our anger out on the cabin and our landlord and not on each other because we would like blame that for everything. And then when we decided to stay a few weeks ago and we squashed things out with our landlord and we decided to stay, I felt like things were on an upswing. They were not. I was like, where's that coming from? They were not. And then, Pisces season came in, like the fucking shitstorm that it's been. And I'm trying so hard to like be my positive Glinda the Good Witch Fairy. Which, by the way, I don't know when this is going out, but I just did a reading for the waxing gibbous moon. Oh, I just saw a heart. I love you, Spirit. We'll get there. But it was a great reading. And it's about refining and focusing our energy and our manifestations, and also just like love and optimism and spirit and accomplishment. And it's really, really good pick a reading. There were 5 readings, but they were so peculiar. I mean, they were like almost like, you could see my reflection. They were literally like completely different readings, yet they all like went together too. Like, it was just really cool. I can see what's happening with our tribe. Like, some of us are doing okay and focusing on certain things, and some of us are drinking the Kool-Aid still and wondering why things aren't going forward, and so I'm like somewhere in the middle of that, which I've always been as a medium. I have a really funny story to tell you. So years ago when I used to smoke cigarettes, I remember when I was in high school in the 80s, my boyfriend at the time, Bruce Lamont, he's like a super awesome, I'm going to give him a little plug right now because he's a phenomenal musician. He just had a birthday. He got married last year. I'm so proud of him. He's like my, I don't know how we're linked, but that's a really cool story in itself, how we know each other and everything. But for years after I didn't see him, I lived in Los Angeles and I was married, and, deluded myself into thinking I was happily married, loving my life, deluded myself into thinking I was having this great life. But like a lot, I don't know if it was every month, but for years, did you see that? Several times a year, I would dream about him, but never in like a sense of a boyfriend. He was like, if you remember the Doors movie with Val Kilmer, and they show him like the way Jim Morrison like would describe his, I'm sorry, I feel like I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like itchy, like my head feels itchy, like spirits talking to me, like they're like pushing me forward to do this. Also, I have a lot of oils in my hair, so sometimes when I have oils in my hair, it's like my head starts to feel kind of overwhelmed with oil. I digress. Sorry, I smoked a lot of weed. It's been a really fucking rough few weeks. So, long story short, in the movie, they talked about, Jim Morrison, how he would have these dreams. And Jim Morrison talked about them for years, how he had these dreams about the lizard man, the lizard king, who would come and visit him in his dreams and stuff. So in my 20s, when I was living in Los Angeles, almost the entire time I was living there too, almost the whole like time, I would have these dreams of like him as my lizard king. Like that's what was fucking weird about it. It was so bizarre. And this was before like social media and stuff. Like I didn't really know what he was doing. I mean, I knew through the grapevine he was still doing music and stuff, but like, you know what I mean? Not like now where you can just like see people's like social stuff or whatever. And every so often, I don't stalk people. Every so often, Spirit will have me like check in on people and kind of see how they're doing, and I'll like pray for them, or I'll like sit with their higher self and send them good juju or something like that. But with him, we had this really cool reconnection on our 20-year anniversary where his mother had passed over, and it's like looking back on it now, it was like we were talking about her and because we dated in high school, so his mom, she was just like this very beautiful angel of a person. Like I just got the chills. I don't remember her name. I feel like I feel like later I'll be like, oh, of course that was her name. But he had a sister named Kelly, and my original, like I was born Kelly Ann, but became Tallulah Kelly. And long story short, again, basically I somehow, he became like the spirit in my subconscious. And looking back on it now, I think part of it is because at that time, everybody around me was like so full of shit. And he and I were, it was the 80s. It was like the mid to late 80s when we knew each other. So, having that, like getting to know somebody during such a tumultuous time, I remember when he found, Kurt Cobain and like Soundgarden and like all of these like really cool bands, and he's like, I'm going to move to Seattle. I'm serious. I want to run away. Come with me. Like he had a rough day and he was like, came over to my house, we had that kind of relationship. Like we weren't just like boyfriend, girlfriend in high school. Like we were like two fucking very spiritual, like didn't know what we were or what, you know what I mean? We just knew that we had more to offer, and we didn't believe in the bullshit and the politics and our school and just like the rules. Like we were anarchists, everything was like, anarchy. And so I started to like think about just how much we influence each other and how we all really are one. And like this is real, but it's not real. And because I go between all different worlds, it's hard for me to keep coming back to this third dimensional experience and having compassion. And I believe that's why I'm here. I believe I'm meant to like have love and compassion for everybody, even when they make me angry, even when they piss me off, because I know that's ego and I know this and that, but there's also a limit. There's a limit to things. And now, no matter what I've done or whatever, or what I do now, it's like the only thing that really matters is that in 51 years, the wisdom that I've gained from my own experiences is worth sharing with people, just because we're so the same. We're so the same. Our problems may be different. Of course, we're different people, but we're just light beings having a human experience. We're just part of one big atom that exploded and then took on life. And it's guarded by angels and healers and deep down believers in magic You know, we were born of love. But if we get so caught up in this third dimensional shit, we just. So I just had a come to Jesus moment with my husband today where I was just like, I love you so much. And gave him all these reasons why, and like comparative, history of why and everything, and that why I've stuck in here, why I've, even when people were like, dude, he cheated on you so many times, like, why are you still with him? I'm like, or why do you go back to him? Why do you go back to him? Giving me this like abuser, like enabler. And I was like, and for a long time, I didn't know either, but then I started to realize it's because some of us who are the most broken need the strongest of the pack to help guide us through it. But I'm only so strong. And so I said, I've been really going over this in my head. And I said, so we're going on 8 years, right? So we met in spring. So this is our, so if our first started in spring, it's like it ended in winter. So this is like our last, even though it's like March 3rd, 2023, Piscean energy, you know what I mean? Like I can go on and on about what's happening astrologically, our signs, all that. But it's also, today I had a moment when I realized that it's been 7 years since we've been doing tiny home living. And it's just not for everybody. And I think if we were different, like I wouldn't be surprised if someday we go back into tiny living, but in a different way. And we find, you know what I mean? Like, cause we'll know how to do it, and a bigger space and on wheels so we can like travel around and things like that. But for now, I'm like, no, I'm like, if things don't change, I'm like, cause he's like, it's the seasons. I go, okay. So we move south. And when we move south, warm, if it comes up again, what will be your new excuse? I'm not saying seasonal depression isn't real. I've lived it. I know it's real. But I also know that when I'm genuinely happy, it doesn't matter what the fuck's going on. I'm okay. And what I started to notice was this week was an expensive week for our family because he took on a job that this has been happening every year, at least 2 or 3 times a year, but it's gotten better. It's only been like usually once in the winter and once in the fall that he'll take on a job that I just get a really bad vibe about. And I'm like, don't take on that job, dude. And it's usually the ones that he'll be like, oh, it's easy. It's going to be easy. I'm like, because he doesn't realize that I don't have a photographic memory, but I have a really good memory, even with all the fucking weed I smoke. 1315. Thank you, Spirit. That's going to be an angel number for us. I always like to go back and look, and I'm like, oh, yeah, dude. It's like fucking spot on, usually. Anyway, I digress again. But, I was like, if we get to a point, you know what I mean, where it's just like, it's literally the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. When the person is not ready to change, you cannot change them. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how much you love them, you cannot change them. This I know. This I've witnessed over 51 years. So take it from me. I did the legwork. You have to do your own legwork, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's your own experience. You have to do it yourself. But sometimes we have to make the changes for ourselves. But at the same time, we have to love unconditionally. And that's what I told him. I said, I will always love you unconditionally. I said, you will always be my best friend. I will always love you. I said, however, I was like, I feel like I'm being choked. It's, how you don't wear something for a long time and then all of a sudden you're just like, it feels weird on you. Also, I think I left this in the dryer too long and I'm used to it being bigger. So it's like all shrunken and shit. Anyway, laundromats. I've seen my share. So I'm all over the place because I can't keep watching the same things. And so I've been noticing for weeks that he was in this weird place, and I was like calling things out, and I was like, dude, you're doing those fucking things again. Shit's starting to happen again. Starting to happen again. It's starting to happen again. It's starting to happen again. It's starting to happen again. Like, how many times do I have to say the same shit? And like, how long is it going to take for you to fucking listen to me? And it's not the ego. That's what I'm trying to tell him. Like, I go, your narcissist is fighting me like it's an ego. I am fucking telling you, my intuition, like spirit, like you're married to a fucking medium. Take advantage of it. Don't do the fucking polar opposite. Like, you know when you're a kid and you do the polar opposite of what your parents say because you're like, no, I'm going to do the opposite because I want to be right. It's like, that's normal. That's a kid learning. But I was like, when you're 50 and you're grown, it's like, that's your inner child driving the bus. That's your inner child begging for you to fucking pay attention to them and heal what is broken. We cannot heal ourselves if we do not fucking get to the root of the problem. And I'm noticing certain things that are happening with he and I, and I'm like, I feel really good about it. Like, I feel healed. I really do. Genuinely. And then I'll sit with spirit and they're like, yeah, you're good there. Like, you're good. Like, because I'm handling it differently. I'm responding to him differently. But then these other things come out. It's like, and he'll poke and he'll prod and he'll poke and he'll prod till my inner child comes out and is like, stop bullying me. Fucking knock it off. And then my triple fire, you know, and my moon in Scorpio and being an empath, I just fucking go back at him and I'm like, whoa, listen, triple Gemini, moon is in Sagittarius, you need to fucking slow your roll. Because you're taking your fire and your wind and you're throwing it my way. And I've been that. I've been the bull in the china shop. It takes one to know one. That's what I'm telling him. I'm like, I go, I'm not saying these things to you. Like, I've never been that person. I go, that's why, right? In these readings that Spirit gave us, that for the waxing gibeus, the refine and focus, what they want us to really, really work on is remembering that we cannot control everything. We're not meant to control everything. But how we respond to it is everything. And if somebody's angering us, it's the exaggerated version of our own shadow coming back at us. Thank you, Deepak Chopra. You know, it's an exaggerated aspect of ourselves, of our shadow self. And so it's like, how do you respond to that? And I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I want to heal it. But you know that saying, they say you can't heal where you're hurt. And that's true. How do you heal from something when somebody's constantly at you? And you're constantly, you know, trying to, like, I've been there and supportive, but then I'm tired. My energy gets worn down. I can only clear this place or, you know, bring love and sunshine to, you know, the darkness till my light burns out. And that's what I told him. I said, you know, you don't realize how much you're doing it. I know because I've done it to others, and I apologize to you. I know I've done it to somebody, you know, many people, I'm sure. We've said this so many times. Spirit always says we always play the victim and the hero in someone's story, sometimes simultaneously. So, you know, we have to heal where we're hurt. And it's hard. But when you get to the point where it's not upsetting you anymore, that's when the triggers are gone and, you know, you can move on. And so I told him, I said, it's interesting. I said, I go, if you notice, like, the little things don't bother me as much anymore. Like, we would be in a fucking drag out fight over some of the things he's done this last week. Decisions he's made when I've been like, don't do this. Or I'm like, dude, just fucking give up the ghost. You know, I'm like, just give up the ghost. Like, sometimes you just gotta walk away from it. I'm like, I'd rather you walk away from it now and only lose $100. I go, then you work on this and we lose hundreds of dollars. He's a mechanic. He makes $50 an hour. He worked on a car for 6 days. 6 days. And he still couldn't get it to work. And I told him from the beginning, I had a really weird feeling. It was like a lemon, or it was from 1997. And I felt like the car just didn't want to be fixed. Like, it was done. It was time for them to buy a new one. You know, they had the means to buy a new one. It was kind of like, you know, but he wasn't meant to get involved in that. You know what I mean? It was like, let somebody else get involved in that, but that wasn't for us. But he took it on anyway. And the guy was like, you know, oh no, keep going. Because he was like, you know, trying to give up. And the guy's like, no, keep going. And I was like, I have a really bad feeling about this guy. I go, I think he's going to fuck you over if it doesn't work out. And he's like, no. He's like, he knows that it's a problem. He knows it's an issue. Yeah. So today he tried one more thing and it didn't work. And he's like, dude, you know, we gotta stop. Now, mind you, he did another job for this guy where he had several mechanics come out and they couldn't fix it, and Alder fucking fixed it. And he even said, he's like, dude, you're like a fucking genius. And people tell him that all the time. So if Alder can't fix something a lot of times, it's because it can't be fixed. It's done. People are like, oh, you can always fix a car. No, you can't. Sometimes it's done. And cars have energy too. They're done. It was 1997. They're like, I'm fucking done. It's been 25 years. I'm done. You know, I don't want to drive anymore. Or however many years. I don't know. So, you know, but he didn't listen to me. So when he told me how much he got today, I almost threw up. And I said, did you explain? He's like, yeah. And I go, and you told him, you know, and he's like, yep. And he even told him like he should get better parts or invest in, you know, whatever. And he had the money. People are so cheap. I guess it's, I don't know. Anyway, so whatever. So I had to let it go because it's not my issue, right? It's not my bullshit. It's not my story. 2055, which is also the number 12, which is also the number 3, if that means anything for anybody. And then I said, what did you say? Did you counter? Did you like, you know, he's like, I told him everything. I told him, you know, this and that. And I go, this is the same guy who was just fucking praising you for your last job, just told you that you're not good enough. And that even though it's not your fault and you told him that, he's deciding what you're worth. I go, you can literally take him to court. But he knows you won't because you're a nice guy, but also because you're a fucking pushover, because you don't stick up for yourself. You don't set boundaries. And I just started losing my shit because as a triple Sag, I'm like, and a moon in Scorpio, I don't take anyone's fucking shit. And I'm the first person to be the most loving, kind person. But when someone is like doing wrong by me or somebody that I love, I'm like, no, I'm not going to put up with that. So I said, I go, that's fine. I go, but if he even calls you for anything, I go, you tell him no. I go, don't even respond to him. I mean, that's just, I'm like, you don't get to decide. I go, you think if he took that to a fucking shop that they wouldn't get that money from him? I go, they would sue his ass. I go, but you're a lone wolf. You're a traveling mobile mechanic. And he knows you probably won't take him to court for that. Not for that amount. He's, you know, I go, but I almost want him to take him to court because people do that all the time. You know, they take advantage of people and I'm tired of it. I've been watching it forever. Hold on. I'm like, my hair is driving me crazy. I got to itch my head. All right. Let's get this going. I'm like, hold on. But you hear me, right? Like, it's just overwhelming. It's my Rosanna Dana. It's just overwhelming. I like keeping my crown chakra covered. It's just overwhelming and I'm tired of it. And I've just watched him do this. And I said, you know, that is so tied into your self-worth. I'm like, I would have at least said, you know, at least counter. Even $50 more or fucking $100 more, just counter. And I go, he probably would have said, okay. I said, but you just fucking took it. And you know what? We can't just take it, you guys. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. I said, I go, tell me the truth. Cause he's told me like sometimes, you know, he's like, yeah, I fucking, that broke or that happened. And maybe if I'd been going slower, he'll admit it. But he's like, no, he's like, I did everything I possibly could. He goes, I told him, you know, that these cars, blah, blah. And I'm like, I go, just like you've told me you don't like to take on certain cars. I go, but you took this on and I told you not to. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a life lesson. And I said, why is it when you have life lessons, they cost us money every fucking time? So we lost a huge amount of money this week. I said, but you know, the interesting thing was, I go, you were gone and I actually had a lot of time to myself and worked through a lot of things. I go, but what I realized is that I don't want to deal with this kind of shit anymore. I just don't want to, and I don't have to. That's what I said to him. Like, I don't have to do this. I go, I can love you and send you healing energy and whatever. I'm like, but I don't have to be around your life choices anymore. You know? So I said, you know, you've got to figure your shit out. And I said, I will love you and I will support you. I said, but I don't know how much more time I'm going to give you. I said, I've already given you almost 8 years and I'm grateful, right? I mean, he's changed my life. I love him. I wouldn't be who I am without him. Don't think that I don't know that. I do know that. But I also know that I can't keep watching somebody do the same things over and over and never heal it, you know? So, because I said, even if you weren't like working with cars anymore, I'm like, when you're in this energy, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You would like, somehow it would like, it's like, because it's tied into his poverty consciousness and his self-worth. And he was raised very, very poor. And his parents lived like gypsies, and they were addicts, and like, you know, left him with people. And I mean, he had a horrible, horrible childhood. He had a good childhood and beautiful childhood in some ways, but in other ways, he saw things no child should have ever seen. He experienced and witnessed things no child should have ever had to go through. You know, watching sex shows and shit like that. Like, you know, no wonder why he became a sex addict. Being molested and raped, you know. He's allowed me to talk about it because he's, you know, I know he's still working through a lot of stuff, but we've been working through stuff for years in therapists, but like he stopped going, you know, and because he was feeling good, you know, it's like the medicine, right? Like you feel good. People who go off their meds, they're like, I feel really good. I feel really good, until they don't, until they're, you know, they're reacting to, they don't know how to control their emotions. I don't think people need to be on medications. I think they need to learn how to control what's happening to them. You know, the rage or the anarchy or the chaos, whatever that is. It's about controlling the demon within, because we all have light and dark. We're supposed to, the shadow, we're supposed to have that. But the message I got from Spirit yesterday was that it's not really about living in balance. It's about living in balance of the light. It's not about living in balance of shadow and light, because that isn't, in my opinion, it's like, that's not what is going to heal. And we're also in the healing process. When I asked Spirit, I was like, I can't believe we're supposed to be together. I'm like, I just can't believe it, you know? It's like the first song that came on was like, I can't remember the name of it, but something about like, you're the only one or something. I said, tell me, you know, Spirit talks me through music like Bumblebee from Transformers. And so they played this one song that was like, oh my gosh, you know? And then the second song was, you know, love myself or something like that. But, and then the third song was about healing, but it was about love, and it was about healing. And I saw what Spirit was trying to say is that he and I are helping heal each other, and it's beautiful and it's loving and it's endearing. And we've stayed together, and I have forgiven him for everything he's done to me, because he didn't really do it to me. He was doing it to himself, you know, and I was just happened to be along for the ride, you know. But everything else that's been going on in our relationship, it's like I've shut a lot of things down because I was just like, I need to protect myself, and I'm just not there. But I think by shutting those doors, it's also like shut my love off to him and his love to me. So we have a lot to learn still, and there's a lot to go through. But I said, we have to have two willing partners. I'll keep doing this with you if I feel like you're keep moving forward, but I'm not going to keep going through the same patterns with you that you refuse to look at and heal, you know. And, you know, I said, I'm still going through stuff. I'm not saying I'm completely healed or enlightened. It's not like that at all. I'm just saying that you know, we're all at different levels of consciousness, but I feel like he and I have been like in this kind of like race the whole entire 8 years. And sometimes we're like this, but then it seems like I'm always kind of going here, and then he'll stay until I get so like where it's his energy is affecting me again, and then like I'll kind of come back down here, and then we fight and we argue, and it's like we go back in the same patterns and the same bullshit, and nothing's being accomplished. We're just hurting ourselves and each other. And I just was like, you know, both of us were raised by parents that didn't know how to love themselves or each other properly. That's the water. And it's like, yeah, it's right. It's like that Spirit like talking to us like right. It's like creaking, like old energy. That's what our souls are like right now. Let's listen. It's like our souls, right? That's what it feels like. It's like we're waking up certain parts of ourselves. And this was the biggest lesson of them all that I got today, was that we just shifted over to the age of Aquarius. We just shifted over. You know, some people are like, oh, it's been, you know, 50 years or whatever. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's like in the big scheme of things, 50 years to Earth is like a hiccup. It is going to take a minute for us to bring this planet to the place that it needs to be. It's going to take a minute. it's going to take a minute. So we have to ask ourselves, what are we willing to endure? What are we willing to go through? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? Yeah, that's been the big one. What do we want? You know what's so funny? We got this really cool plant stand from our landlord for Jazzy, our plant, because she needed to get off the ground. He was like, oh, he's like, the deers will probably eat that. Anyway, long story short, we've been using it for our water. It's been so great. Look at this. So see, I just like, that's how I make hot water so I can wash my hands, because right now I'm about to make some yams, and we're going to have mashed yams with a beet salad and popcorn for dessert. So I was hoping we would go out to eat or get some takeout today, because I've been cooking for weeks and really wanted a day off. But since he came home with a fraction of the money, we have to do what we have to do. And I don't know what we're going to do, or if we should sue or whatever. But, you know, I kind of feel like to him, I go, nope. I go, it's just another expensive lesson. And for him too, that guy. Because if he gets another mechanic in there and he tells him the same thing, he'll have wasted his money, and he has to live with that karma that he fucked him over. He could have given him at least a little bit more, because Aldo really wanted to stop a few times. He was like, dude, I'm thinking that, you know, and he's like, well, maybe it's the part. Maybe we should just get another, because the part, you know, broke, and that they got the new part. And so they went to get it, or they got a new one, and it did it again. And he's like, I don't know why it's doing that. And he's like, I'm telling you. He's like, I've worked on these. He's like, I don't know why it's doing that. So then, you know, he even got the high-end part, and it did it again. And he's like, it's the car. He's like, I don't know why it's doing that. It shouldn't be doing that. So it's like the guy wanted someone to blame, and Alder's letting him. He's being the fall guy. So it's like, in a way, it's like, it's kind of cool, because he's just like rising above it, and he's taking the high road. But in another way, it's like, to me, no. It's like, I can't help my Southside Chicago Kelly is like, you ain't nobody's bitch. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you fucking worked hard for that money. That's ridiculous. That's not your fault. But he's going to take it on the chin. So, you know, it's like I go, you're like the fucking Jesus guy, whipping yourself all the time. I'm like, stop. I'm like, until you really forgive yourself and love yourself, I go, you will never be able to have a relationship with me. And this will keep happening. And I go, even if you break up with me, until you heal it, I said, please don't get in another relationship until you do. Because no one else should have to deal with that, you know? It's like, for me, I feel like if we break up, I'm absolutely positively going to be alone for a long time, because I know that is the best way to heal myself and to find myself again. Because I said to him, I go, you know, these days you've been gone, I said, I have the best day. I go, and then you come home and it's like depressing and dark, and, you know, and he's like, why can't I fix it? And I'm like, that's like such a narcissistic ego. Like, because you can't fix everything. We can't fix everything. We just can't. And I can't fix him, and he can't fix me. And this is my fucking kitchen confessional. So I'm sorry I was a little bit of an egomaniac myself today, but I had to get it out. You know, I had to get it out. I've just kind of, I've had enough. I've had enough. I've seen enough. And I'm ready to, remember this yam baby? I'm going to make the yam baby today. I was going to make it the other day, but we were called to have something else. So I love you guys so much. Eat the ugly food. It tastes just as good. Usually it tastes better, actually. Thank you for listening to my ramblings and my kitchen confessional. Until next time, take really good care of yourselves and each other. And check out that reading. I don't know when, it's probably going to be posted by the time I put this up. So go check it out. It's on my other channel. If you're not aware of it, there's a link to my other channel called The Magical Medium. And it's the 4th quarter moon waxing gibbous reading on refining and focusing. All right, till next time, take good care of yourselves.